Hola a todo el mundo y bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Sirey. Soy una abogada afro-latina licenciada practicando la ley criminal, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a continuar hablando de Nolan Wells. Si quiere más video en español, no me dígame ya abajo. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latino criminal attorney who, much like the rest of you, has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, I'm gonna say that again because I don't know if the mic picked it up and you might just hear you might just see it twice. Has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen. Okay, you guys. So I remember in the last video that we discussed Nolan Wells, I told you guys that I was privy to the fact that a few, of his friends did some interviews. And I wanted to share with you guys my opinions on those interviews, right? So, without any further ado, that's the whole purpose of this video. Let's go ahead and get started in our continued coverage of Nolan Wells.
Brandon Tatum is the host of the Officer Tatum Show. And like I just mentioned, he spoke with some of Nolan's friends. He joins us now. Brandon, thank you for being here. So first, just your reaction to Nolan's stepfather saying he doesn't recognize his friend Trace, who you interviewed, basically alleging that you didn't know him very well at all, if at all.
It's slightly disappointing. I mean, I don't know these people, to be honest. I don't know who's really friends or not. I'm just going off of what Trayston told me. But Trayston did share pictures of him with Nolan at prom. He told me he not only just parked the car outside, he had been over Nolan's house multiple times, and he also gave Nolan a ride to school on multiple occasions. So it's very confusing. I don't know why a young man would say that he's friends and literally be emotional when he talked about Nolan. I mean, he literally cried and teared up off camera. And I felt like it was very genuine. And for the parents to say that they don't know him at all and won't even consider the fact that he believed he was friends with Nolan, it's very shocking to me. And I don't know if they're being genuine because you don't always know your children's friends.
Right.
Or are they still trying to hold on to this agenda that no one who disagrees with the narrative of racism can possibly be associated with them because it destroys their money. Well, I'm not saying the parents' money grift, but Benjamin Crump's money grift.
Yeah, I mean, we heard from Nolan's parents and, of course, his mother. Any parent would want to know what happened, and she expressed that. But there are motives with Ben Crump and his history. There are lawsuits now suing his friends and social media companies fueled by Ben Crump. Do you think that he's helping this family or hurting them in their quest for answers?
Well, Katie, I think he's destroying the reputation of this family and also hurting this investigation. The fact that he put out the autopsy prematurely when law enforcement didn't even put out the autopsy it can convolute the investigation, because now when you interview witnesses, you don't know if they are saying things because they saw it on television or have they genuinely had an experience only they would have if they were actually there at the scene. And then also, I want to believe his mother. I don't have any reason necessarily, because I don't know her personally, to believe that she would just lie. But when I look at the facts, why wouldn't she communicate with with Warren and their family? They showed me text messages. They showed me phone calls where they called and reached out to her. And if I personally want to know what happened to my child, the first person I'm going to talk to is the people who last saw him alive. I don't understand why they take the position of saying it's us versus y'all. And now you want to subpoena phones and do things like that, which are going to take, I don't know, months for it to come out. And they may not even be granted. I mean, you got to think Nolan was an adult. He wasn't a kid. So some of these social media platforms may not even grant them access to his account if they don't have somewhat of a legal search warrant. So I just wish that they would have come together as a community and got to the bottom of this, got information, and then shared it to the public instead of, making it a divisive thing up front.
Yeah. Brandon, we're still waiting on the toxicology report, but from interviews with Nolan's friends, we do know that drinking heavily was involved and that Nolan Wells was drinking. And you have on good authority that drugs potentially could have been involved as well. You also visited the island. Just what are your takeaways from what we know about the conditions there and the status of the investigation?
Well, at this point, and I always encourage people to wait until the full investigation is out before you make a conclusion or a determination of whether somebody's guilty or not. Going out to Horn Island was very revealing to me. because the initial statements from people who are talking about this, especially the Nolan Wells family, that they were acting as if they just dropped Nolan off at an abandoned island where no one was around to watch him get murdered or something. And then now you go and look at it, you go, well, no, there was tons of people there. That gives me encouragement that somebody saw what happens, but it also proves in many ways that they didn't just abandon him as if he was a little kid on the island by himself. So seeing the island go in there gave me a pretty good understanding about what happened.
Well, certainly injecting race, and we don't have all the facts either, is not helpful. And we will continue to watch this. Brandon, Tatum, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your accounting of it.
Okay, you guys, I remember when we did our last Nolan Wells video, I told you guys that I was privy to the fact that a few of Nolan's friends sat down and did interviews and gave their side of the whole shebang, the whole story, right? And I was able to watch those interviews, but I'm not going to discuss every single friend that discussed or spoke out. Let's just focus this on one specific friend, one specific interview, one specific, video time frame, whatever, and let's just tailor our video for that discussion. Let's go ahead and get started. So the friend that I'm talking about here is Warren Hudson, and I used air quotes very intentionally because it just seems to me like all of these friends are, saying a whole lot of nothing, if I'm being honest. I know that everyone's a kid here, and kid in relation to me, they're grown people, they're 18 years old, but they're children. But all that to say, it's like we're talking, but not saying anything. It's like a whole bunch of, I don't know, obfuscation, um, deflection, just a whole lot of, I don't know what happened. And I don't know, like, I have a circle of really tight friends, really close friends that if something happened to them, I would know. I would know what happened. I would know who did it. I would know when it happened. I would know why it happened. I would know. And I understand that the circumstances surrounding this allegedly, is that Nolan wanted to stay back with some girl, so they left him on the water. But if that call that we discussed in the last video is an actual call of what happened, that seems to dispute that count, right? But regardless, I can't envision being with my friends and someone's like, "You can just leave me." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying if that were to be the case and if that were to be what had occurred here, that is odd. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay, you guys. So that interview was conducted with Brandon Tatum, and the interview dropped on July 26th. So just a few days ago at this point, I was able to watch the interview and listen to Warren's take of things. The first thing that really, really struck me or stood out to me was the fact that he said that Nolan was more like a brother to him than just a friend. Because again, I don't know, how does something happen to your brother while you are present? Not saying that he was physically present as Nolan passed away, but you are in the vicinity of all of the incident of what occurred, but you don't know what happened. So I don't know. I don't treat my brothers and family members like that. That was a little bit odd. But go ahead and listen to him yourself.
All right, Warren. We had a chance to get to know each other over the last 2 days. Went out to Horn Island, so I've had an opportunity to talk to you about a few things, and the things that you've told me have literally blown my mind. But the world haven't had a chance yet to hear your story, to hear Nolan's story through you, through his friend. And it's not just you, it's a bunch of y'all. But, some of the other guys were afraid because of the threats and the violence that's been threatened against their lives and all of the above. But you decided that you wanted to take this bold step and give a statement and, get your side out here. And I want to start at the very beginning of all of this and ask you, what was your relationship like with Nolan? Who was he to you?
Nolan, I could describe Nolan in a million ways. I mean, Nolan was not just a best friend of me, but he was a brother. I grew up through elementary, middle school, high school, and even our freshman year of college. We talked on the phone all the time. We were really close friends. And Nolan was like a brother to me. And Nolan lit up every room he walked in. He always had a smile on his face. He always had something good to say. I've never seen Nolan get in an argument with somebody and say bad things about someone. There's a lot of people that talk crap nowadays, and Nolan was never that person. Sweetest soul ever. And I had a great relationship with Nolan. I've never got in an argument with Nolan. We were super close, and I've never said or will ever have anything bad to say about Nolan Wells.
Another thing that I paid really close attention to, you guys, is the fact and understanding that these are kids, is the fact that I don't feel like a direct question was given a direct answer, right? The question posed to him was whether or not he knew Nolan's mother, and the answer was a bunch of circular mumbo jumbo, only to get to the ultimate fact of like, no, not really.
Yeah, and you guys, you said you kind of grew up together. Did you know his mom, or how was that? Because I saw in the media where it appears that she may have said, at least I saw in part, that she said as if she didn't know any of you guys.
Right. Well, Nolan a lot of the times was at like my house and at my buddy's house. We never went to Nolan's house and hung out. I mean, and my friend group's very, very tight knit. I mean, we hang out every day when we're back home from school. In high school, we hung out most weekdays and every day on the weekend. And I mean, we were never at Nolan's house, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I met his father, and I mean, in 8th grade, that's when Nolan and I like got really close. It was COVID year, and we were in class all year long together, me and a couple of my buddies, and Nolan and I just got super tight because we'd get a Waffle House once a week together, eat, and I mean, we were just super, super close. But his dad would swing by Waffle House, you know, and like, you know, hang out around us, but never. You know, I was never around Nolan's parents a lot, but I mean, that didn't change our relationship any. Nolan and I were still just as close, and he was just as close with my friends as, you know, anyone else. So
The reason I wanted to point that out to you guys is just, I don't know. Again, I do not have children, but I can imagine a world in which I did have children. And if I do have children, I would hope that I know who they're close to. Obviously, kids, you know, can be secretive and they hide certain things and whatever. But like, if you're someone that, you know, is claiming to be like a brother to my son, I would be hopeful that I would at least know you a little bit more than just, you know, the occasional hey or what's up, you know, or whatever it was. I just think that was odd. Um, and that's that. Okay. I remember I made mention to you guys in the past video about the fact that Nolan's friends, or at least some of them, had said that Nolan decided to stay back with a girl named Katie, and he didn't go back on the boat when everyone else left. And so they just left him back because it wasn't any, you know, anything else. What I found a little bit interesting specifically to this interview was the fact that Warren said that they had asked Nolan multiple times to re-enter the boat that they were headed back, you know, on. And Nolan said no multiple times. And the reason I think that's a little bit interesting is because if, according to Warren, he did not find it odd that, you know, Nolan wanted to stay back and be with some girl, and if, according to Warren, that's not abnormal behavior, why would you then say that you asked him multiple times to come back, like 4 or 5 times, right? If it's not something that's out of the ordinary, why the 4 or 5 or multiple times requesting that he come back? Do you get what I'm saying? If one of my friends said to me, hey, I'm going to stay here, and that's common occurrence, it's happened before, it's not abnormal, my response wouldn't be a plea for them to come back anyway. I'd probably be like, okay, right? So I don't know. That just seemed rather interesting to me, but go ahead and take a listen.
yeah.
And then where's Nolan in this situation?
Well, Nolan was the last time I saw Nolan was 3:00, and Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie. Katie, and Katie. Nolan was sitting there, and the last time I saw him, I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing, and I was like, "Dude, you crazy?" I was like just joking with him, and but anyway, Nolan. That was the last time I laid eyes on him. But when we were leaving, obviously, no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, you know, be there and asked. You know, this is a very common thing at Horn Island when you're out there. A lot of people ride out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. You know, it's a very common thing. But Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And like, no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said,
how many people heard that? Were there just
at least
just a
5
few,
I mean, everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. I mean, we had multiple people in our group that rode out with us and rode in on someone else's boat. And that, like I said, that's not an uncommon thing to do. I mean, a lot of people do that. I could name probably 50 people out there that day that ran out with somebody and ran back in with somebody else. So, I mean, it's not like it's an uncommon thing, but it's not like we just left him there or my friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie, had text somebody that she heard people yelling
correct
for Nolan to get on it. Is that true?
And I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy, and the next day everybody was panicking and everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, this is the last time I saw him, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see that Nolan decided not to.
Yeah. And so you guys get in the boat, you start to get towed in, and you make it back. Now explain how that you get to the point where you were concerned about Nolan, because obviously you said, hey, Nolan, y'all need to, or somebody, not
when
you,
did I get
but
to that point?
You guys had made mention Nolan needed to get on a boat.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
You guys get back to wherever you're going.
Right.
Explain that. Did you guys go back to somebody's house, or you guys like what happened there? And then when did you feel like, well, wait a minute, where's Nolan?
Right. Okay. Well, running in was very chaotic. I mean, Nolan chose to stay on the island, so my focus wasn't on anything else other than the boat, because if the boat doesn't get in, then no one gets in. I don't want to sink out there on my buddy's boat, and no one does. But my buddy Wyatt jumped out and pulled the plug on the boat once we kind of got out there, because he got the motor to trim down. And the motor trimmed down, my buddy Wyatt pulled the plug, and we planed off. We moved all the way to the front of the boat so we could plane off. And eventually we planed off, and the boat was running. So when you're planed off and you have water in the boat and you're hauling, we're going pretty fast. We're going probably 40, 42 miles an hour. And so all that excess water that was built up in the boat is coming out of the boat. So, I mean, that's what we had to do. So we ran into Fort Bayou, and we didn't just run straight to my buddy's grandparents' house. We ran into Fort Bayou. A couple of us jumped in the water, and Wyatt, the whole reason for the stop was so Wyatt could hop in and put the plug back in the boat. So then after that, we went and docked it, and I went back to my buddy's house, and we ate and napped for a little bit. It was a long day at the island, so we were all tired. And eventually, we go over to a girlfriend of mine. She was having people over for 4th of July. We were doing like fireworks and stuff, so we all went over there to swim and hang out. And
So in the interview, he also described the morning leading up into the events, about how he went to McDonald's and how he and Nolan were on separate boats when they eventually did get to Horn Island, and just a bunch of different things that, seemed to me as an attempt to distance, right? Again, I'm not accusing any of these boys of doing anything, but I don't know. pan pan y vino vino, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it just say it like it is. Give it to us how it is and how it happened, right? I wouldn't attempt to distance myself from someone I considered a brother, especially if my brother went missing and then later turned up dead. I would want to know what happened to him, and I don't know, I don't it's just all very odd. Take a listen.
And walk me through the day of 4th of July where you guys were all going out.
Right.
This seems like something that I would assume that may have occurred more than just this year.
Yeah, of course.
Was it something that you guys did more than just this year? This is a 2-part question. I want to know, is it something that you guys typically did together? Did you hang out often in this fashion? And then I want you to then walk me through 4th of July this year when the incident happened.
Okay. Being from the Gulf Coast, there's a boating and fishing is very, very popular. The 4th of July, every year, my friends and I, or my family and I, are out on the water. I mean, that's the one day is guaranteed everybody's going out. And that's a known thing. Everybody's trying to get a ride out to Horn Island, or, people go to Ship Island, but most of everybody from Ocean Springs and the Gulf Coast go to Horn Island. And, we went last year. Nolan was on the boat with me last year, and he was, this was a common thing. My friends go on the boat when we're home. Very, very common. That's what we like to do. My friends like to fish also, and like to go on the boat. Not just fishing, but like to go on the boat, like to go on sunset cruises, like to do it all, on the water, And Nolan loved to do that too. I mean, he was not like he was just like everyone else in our friend group. He loved to go on the water and, have a good time with the guys. And that's what we did a lot. But 4th of July, everybody was out there. Like I said, like Nolan was always trying to go on the boat, trying to go out there with us. And he was always welcome to come. Nolan was always out there with us. And, but started 4th of July, my buddies and I had talked about this week's upcoming, everybody's very, very excited for the 4th of July from down here. Like it's a big thing.
It's a big deal.
Very, very big deal. And, I actually stayed with Nolan that night at my buddy's house, and I woke up at my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me, and I went and got breakfast. I had my buddy's boat hooked up to my truck, and first I ran to my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back, and the boat was already hooked up to my truck. My buddy Wyatt and I went, and with my buddy, and we went, topped the boat off, loaded it down with ice, and just got everything ready. Then Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach. He's an 18-foot Palm Beach, and I drove the boat from Fort Bayou Boat Launch to my buddy's grandparents' house, and that's where we all planned to meet up that day. And
you say we all, who are you talking about? You, Nolan, and how many people are going to meet you guys there?
We had roughly 20 to 30 people coming on 3 separate boats with us. And so we were all following each other out there as one big group. It wasn't just me and Nolan and a couple other of my buddies. There was 20 or 30 people spread out where we all met at the dock before, and then we departed to go to Horn Island. It wasn't just a couple of us. There were so many people, we had to split up between 3 boats, and we all left and all got there at the same time.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear, because the statements that are out there made it appear that it was just you, Nolan, and probably 2 or 3 other guys, and y'all are the only ones that went out to this island.
And that's completely incorrect. Horn Island on the 4th of July is the most popular day to be on the water on, throughout the entire Gulf Coast. Everybody and their mom is on the water on 4th of July, There's no telling. Roughly probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4,000 people out there. There were boats lined up off the island. There was 3 rows of boats all the way until my vision ended, until I could see of people there was 1 row of boats, and then there was another row of boats, and then there was a 3rd row of boats.
Yeah.
There was people lined up all up and down the island to where, who knows? And that wasn't just, we were parked on the north side, on the west tip. It wasn't just there. There's tons of people packed out on the south side and on the east end and in the middle of the island. But just where we were, I mean, there was easily 1,000 people. It wasn't just us.
Let's go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to you guys at the dock, getting on the boat. You're saying there's multiple people, probably 20 or 30 people getting on 3 boats.
Right.
What boat were you on, and what boat was Nolan on?
Nolan was on Wyatt's 22 Triton. On the way out, I went with my buddy Bart because we had a lot of friends from college coming down, and I called Bart that morning. I was like, "Hey, man, can you take your boat out?" And he was like, "Yeah, well, my dad's decided not to go, and I'll take the boat, and I'll take you and your friends." Of course, I mean, he's a buddy of mine. And so Bart pulled up at the dock, and I mean, I rode out there with Bart, and a lot of the girls that go to college with my friends and I, and Nolan rode out on the Triton, and then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. There was like 8 people on the Triton, and then there was 8 or 9 people on the Triton, and then there was the rest of the group, which was ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line, which is 24 tide line.
Okay. And then at some point throughout the video or the interview, it cuts to a little bit of a break where Brandon Tatum then goes to the exact island and goes and shows everyone the exact path that the boys took when they went out. That also included some surveillance footage of, different people, different members going on different boats.
We're in Mississippi right now. We're getting ready to recount the exact path that the boys took, also with Nolan Wells, from where they docked the boat at all the way out to Horn Island and back. The boys are going to explain to me exactly what went on, how many people were there, how many boats were taken out, which I think the world is going to be completely dumbfounded when they realize what the truth really is, because the lies have been pervasive. So we're right here where Nolan left on the boat, and you'll find out how many people were there, how many boats. And then we're going to take that same path out. I'm going to go look at Horn Island and see exactly where they could have been to get a perspective that the media don't even care to try to do. And then we're going to take the trek back, and we're going to find out exactly what happened to Nolan. It's the reason why I'm here, man. I want you guys to have a voice. I want you guys to be able to speak out and show what the truth really is, and then let the world decide. I just don't want you guys to end up in a situation where your story never gets heard. Right here is where Nolan and probably 20 other kids got on the boat. So it's not just Nolan and 3 other kids. That was a lie. That was a myth. I'm going to prove that. Right here is where the kids were docking, and we're going to show you a video that coincided. I'm going to walk at the exact angle that the video is being broadcast from, so you know that I'm exactly where I say I am. But the boys were here. Tons of people you'll see on the video is getting onto the boat, and they took 3 boats out. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just Nolan and 4 boys. It was a multitude of people on several different boats. And some of the boys that they're accusing wasn't even on the boat that Nolan was on. But let me show you from the vantage point where I have the video to prove that I'm here where I say I am. And so right now, here's the angle that you're going to see on the footage. It's just from probably that boat to, maybe about 30, 40 feet here to the right. And this is where the video is showing how many people were actually out there, actually getting on the boats. So therefore, it debunks very clearly that it was only Nolan and 4 boys going out here to Horn Island. All right, you guys, sorry about the sunglasses. It's very bright out here, and I never wear sunglasses, but we're at Horn Island in almost the exact same position where the boys were, where Nolan was. So if you look out right here, just so you guys can get a perspective, you have the Horn Island here, but I want you guys to put this in your mind, what this was like on that day. You have boats 2, 3, 4 deep, from way down there where you can see all the way through here. You have thousands of people on this island, probably 2,000 people. So this wasn't some abandoned, secluded island where nobody's at. Obviously, this is a Monday, and there's a few people on the backside of the island, not a lot of people here. But on 4th of July, this is a celebration. And so this wasn't a small place where 4 boys took their black friend and dropped him off and never seen him again. This place was flooded with people. Tons of people, multiple boats, multiple friend groups. I mean, everybody's here having a good time. And then the boat gets towed out because it was getting ready to sink. And so, and from what I was told, they told Nolan, get on the boat, man. Get on the boat. Get on the freaking boat. And he decided, because he's an adult, that he was going to stay behind. And all the boys that they've been accusing, and they saying it had something to do with his death, they were all gone at 4:30. They were all gone. And they told Nolan to get on the boat. He didn't. And then there was a report of somebody seeing Nolan around 6:30-ish. And so for them to come out and claim these lies, won't take the time to come to Horn Island, won't take the trip out here to figure out what happened, won't talk to anybody, pushing an agenda is wrong. And that's the reason why I came out here. I wanted to see for myself, what did this look like? What could have happened? You know, does the stories line up based on what I've seen and what I've heard from people that live here that were involved in this situation? This is where the lie started. People were putting out on social media, knowing that they're lying, that this is what it was like on a day that Nolan and his friends came out here to Horn Island. And if it was 4 or 5 people and they came out here and Nolan was with them and maybe it was a few people out here like it is today and Nolan came up missing, then maybe it would be suspicious. But they didn't take the time to give context to the people because they're evil and they're liars. So if it was like that right now, when the situation happened, I can see how people had a concern. But you got to replay this moment with thousands of people here. If anything would have happened directly involving Nolan and his friends, you can't tell me that thousands of people wouldn't have seen anything happen. And so that's pretty much why I want to come here and show you guys. This is what they want you to believe it was like on that day, which is a lie. They want you to believe they came to a secluded island, just 4 of them, and then Nolan is left behind, and then his body's washed up on shore, and nobody knows what happened. Nobody could have seen what happened but the boys. It's a flat out lie.
What I will say is this. Also in the interview, Warren talked quite extensively about the fact that it wasn't just them and their party, it was a bunch of different people all throughout the island. I don't know if, at least from my perspective, that sways me one way or another. I would assume that if people are partying for the 4th of July, it's not just your party of people. That's what I would assume, right? I don't know if there was any insinuation to the contrary, but you guys can let me know of that. I just thought it was really interesting that, the mention of how many people were there, because again, it's a national holiday. People are celebrating. I don't think most of us assumed you were the only people on this deserted island. But let's go ahead and carry on. Warren also made mention of the fact that he talked to the police, right? So he said that he talked to the police and he told them everything he knew. And I believe he said the first time he talked to the police was July 7th. So only a few days after this occurred. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that if this were to happen to someone that I considered so close that they're like family, brother, sister, that I wouldn't be, I guess, more open. Maybe I'm not seeing the other end of things in that maybe I'm not seeing, the boys are getting threatened or whatever. I think this case has taken off and, Nolan's family is also being threatened. So all parties, everyone has specific allegiances, alliances, whatever. Like everyone has their own side type of thing, right? So maybe it's that they're like, well, we don't want to be threatened anymore, But I don't know. I think more cooperation would maybe assist in not getting threats. And I'm not saying that threats are appropriate or proper, but I think the threats come from the fury that people face for not having answers. Does that make sense? I don't think anyone should be threatened, but I'm just wondering why there's not more openness and more involvement and like, my- I didn't, I would talked to the police as many times as was necessary to figure out what happened to my brother. But you guys take a listen.
So what was the next step? Did you guys ever engage with police or?
Yeah. So the first time I talked to the police was July 7th. I talked to the lead investigator and I told him my whole story, top to bottom, dotted every I, crossed every T. I told him everything I knew, every little detail. I mean, everything I could, tell them to try to figure something out,
Well, you don't want to talk to the cops or?
No, of course not. Guys? Every person that was included, especially, the guys that you see on social media, everybody cooperated with the police fully. Nolan was with us on the way out and he rode out on the boats with us. So, we were the first people to get questioned. We cooperated with the police the first time they called us and, we talked to them, as soon as they needed and we were fully cooperative.
Also, you guys, they talked about the phone. I think I mentioned to you guys in the first video about Nolan about this phone and, whatever. I think Tatum said that the boys had shown him photos and videos of what happened on the island. And that's where Nancy Grace pushed back about like, okay, so there was reception basically, right? But anyways, so they talked about the phone and he said that he didn't delete anything off of the phone. And he gave it back to his mom, whatever. I don't know if he deleted anything off of the phone, but I think the mother's inquiry is well-founded to be like, I have an 18-year-old kid. Social media is his life. There's nothing on anything, no videos, it's just completely empty. That is odd to me. That's bizarre. And I want more answers. And I think that's a founded, inquiry. I think it's appropriate for her to ask questions. And I think her skepticism is well-reasoned. But go ahead and take a look.
So you're on the boat now. The water is getting up to the point where the boat may be disabled to where you couldn't get it out.
Correct.
From Horn Island. So what happens after that?
Wyatt jumps to the water, tries to throw a rear anchor, and my buddy Meyer, you're sitting looking, trying to pull trash out the bilge. And the bilge is basically a pump that pulls the water, the excess water out the boat. So the bilge was failing to work. So any excess water was just sitting in the boat. It wasn't getting pumped out. And I looked over the gunnel and I looked at the release hole for the bilge and it was even with the water. So, we're all freaking out. All of our, we're not focused on anything else other than the boat. Well, then eventually my buddy Bart on the tide line is like, I'm going to pull y'all out to where we're out of all this, all this chaos. Cause we left at 4:30 and there were still just as many people there, if not more than when we got there. Probably around the same amount. It was crazy. Like there was a lot of people. And, eventually Bart pulls us out. We left at 4:30, but we really weren't pulled out away from everybody. We were probably about a quarter mile out and we had the towing strap pulled from, Bart's port side cleat or starboard side cleat, and he was on our starboard side bow. And so it was rubbing on his power pole. So Bart turned around, pulled up next to our boat, and we were just trying to get it situated. So that's when Wyatt called Cito. And Wyatt was like, calls him because the cell service isn't great at the island, but once you can use your phone, but stuff might not just send. And it's not great. You got maybe one bar and it won't work that well. But once you get a little off the island, you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like I called my mom when we were on the island, it was fine. Like we had enough cell coverage to make a phone call or shoot a text over, but you don't have enough cell coverage to like send a picture, for example.
I also want to show you guys the clip, like the moment in the clip when he was asked if he felt like this case had anything to do with race and how he responded.
And we see Benjamin Crump coming to town, made it about race.
Right.
What's your feeling about that? Do you think that any of this has anything to do with race or, because obviously something happened to Nolan. It appears that you guys may not have been involved at all. When I say may not, it's no evidence that you were involved at all. Right. You guys had left.
Right.
But do you think that there's a racial component to any of this?
Of course not. I think if Nolan ever felt the most little bit uncomfortable around us, which we never gave him a reason to, but if he did, he wouldn't hang out around us. But if you go look on, like my friends have had Nolan posted all over our social medias, since freshman year in high school. Like, if Nolan ever felt uncomfortable with us, why would he be hanging out with us all the time? I mean, every day we're back from college, we hang out and we're around each other all the time. So absolutely not. I would never look at Nolan any other way than I would any of my other friends. I mean, he was like a brother to me.
Okay, you guys, that's it for this video. In subsequent videos, we're going to talk about some other interviews that were conducted of Nolan's friends. And I use that term rather loosely. My opinions about Warren's interview as a whole are this. I understand that he's young. I understand that he's probably nervous. I understand all of that. That being said, I feel like he said a whole bunch of nothing. It was 45 minutes to an hour of wasted conversation, in my opinion. He said nothing. We know nothing more than we knew prior to him speaking. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like he added any additional information. He didn't give us anything additional. I feel like it was a waste of time, honestly. What we're trying to figure out is what happened to Nolan Wells. So you sitting down and doing an interview and saying, I don't know anything, please leave me out of it, kind of felt like, more of, I'm trying to protect myself and not I want answers for my brother, right? Yeah, and that's where I'm at with it. I am going to talk about the interviews that were conducted of his other friends in subsequent videos. Let's see if I have different opinions of that. I think this is a tragedy, what happened to Nolan, and I think it's a tragedy that his family is facing. I I grieve for them. This is absolutely terrible. It's horrific. And let's see if we get any more answers from subsequent interviews and just more information that keeps coming out. But that is it for this video. Hold on. If you like this video, will you please tell me you like it? I told you guys I have memberships now. If you want videos like these at least a day earlier, I'm choking. Consider becoming an Esquire on my channel. It's $4.99 per month, but you get videos like these at least 24 hours sooner than everyone else, okay? I'm trying to build my community, establish a community of you guys that just want to hear me yap and present different cases to you guys. Also, will you subscribe? Will you subscribe? Being a member and subscribing, you guys can always change your mind later if you don't like me. You know what I'm saying? If I'm just not your cup of tea, you can leave. But and comment and like this video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.